Good morning. I will call the Norfolk Planning Commission meeting of February 21st, 2024 to order. Inform the public about the Open Meetings Act posted in the northwest corner of the room and ask for roll.
Spray, Sock, here. Bryant, Waite,
Here.
Franklin,
Here.
QB, Griffith,
Here.
Mason,
Here.
Ronfelt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And ask for approval of the full agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is second. Please vote.
All commission members voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
And consideration of the approval of minutes for February 6th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is second. Please vote.
All commission members voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
And item number 6, the consideration to have city staff prepare a conditional use permit for the discussion and action at the next regular scheduled planning commission meeting for a watchman's permit on the property generally located at 2001 South First Street. And this item was postponed at the January 3rd, 2024 planning commission meeting. We don't need a motion to bring it back.
No,
Okay.
since it was postponed to this date certain,
Okay.
yes.
And Val, where are they at with?
They still do not have a building permit. They are working on it, they said. So you have a couple options. Because next meeting is the meeting where new chair, vice chairs voted for, anything on the table automatically dies. So it could either go that way, or you just kind of get rid of it today and vote on it one way or the other, and then it either dies that way or moves on. It's up to you guys.
I'd say we let it go today. I mean, until they get their ducks in a row, I think then they just need to come back and start the process again, especially if it dies anyway eventually.
Mm-hmm.
When we vote it down today, it gives them 6 months to get their ducks in a row.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because this has already gone on about 6 months, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they started back, I think, early August. Mm-hmm.
So if we'll take the motion and you didn't make it in the affirmative, and a vote yes would then approve it, but a vote no would then.
Okay, so just a regular motion. Got it. I'll make a motion to have city staff prepare a conditional use permit for discussion and action at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting for a watchman's permit on the property generally located at 2001 South First Street.
Motion and a second.
All commission members
No.
voting in the affirmative, or voting in the negative.
No. Sock and Bryant voted in the affirmative.
Right.
So Bryant, we need to turn his off. So Sock voted in the, that's a leftover of last night, I guess. So,
All commission members voting in the affirmative.
no, negative.
Okay. Negative. Motion fails.
All right. Item number 7, the public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing at the request of Parlor and Libations LLC to consider a zone change from I-1 to C2 on the property addressed as 714 West Norfolk Avenue. Anyone here to discuss?
We're part of it, I don't, yeah, I'll tell, I'll say anything easy to say.
Yeah, I'm not aware of what Danny's got. I know he's working on his business plan, financial and all that, so this is one of the steps that he was taking.
Yeah.
But I can't speak for him, I see exactly where he's at with it.
Well, I know he wants to do a mixed-use development there, with some studio
Val, do you have any details on this?
Yeah, so they came into pre-planning here a few weeks ago, and it is currently I-1, and they want to do retail on the first floor and then residential second floor and above. So that would need to be a C2 zoning to outright permit that. Plus, there is no parking on that lot, as you can see. And so C2 is the only zoning district that does not require parking, off-street parking. And so that's why the zone change request.
Still fitting the mold of downtown and everything in that.
Yeah, I mean, C2 is pretty much 7th Street to 1st Street right now along Norfolk Avenue.
Anyone else like to speak for or against the zone change? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning change from I-1 to C2 property addressed as 714 West Norfolk Avenue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
All commission members voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Open up the public hearing at the request of BAS Holdings LLC to consider a zone change from agricultural district to I-1 on property address at 2200 South Victory Road.
I'll take this one too. So the piece that we're talking about for the zone change is this field area right here, south of the trees, that is still zoned ag. They want to go from ag to I-1 because then the next item is a conditional use permit for the asphalt plant, which is right next door. And so the people who want the cup to do that are also buying this piece of property and want to make the zoning all the same. And the comp plan does show that that whole, it's this whole area right here is recommended to be industrial.
So they're just changing the business, or they bought the business, or are they renting it, or how does that work? Do you know any details
I
on that?
don't know if they bought the business or they're renting it from them. If you could please stand up and sign in, please.
You can go ahead and
Could you please-
come up here
yeah.
and sign in for me, please. Thank you. Go ahead and give us the details on.
So we purchased the asphalt plant from Grimes Asphalt. It's our intent to leave the plant there, and we're leasing where the plant sits. We're leasing that from Kenny Porter. And we had an opportunity to buy that little piece to the east of that, and it just made sense to us to tie those together. And it's our intent to build maybe over the next 2 years, or a year to 2 years, build an office and a shop there. And for now, what we would have there, we're gonna put a road in from Victory so we can have one-way traffic off of Monroe into the plant, and then one-way traffic out so we can keep the trucks flowing. So really, that piece of land that we're speaking about now will just really not it'll have some stockpiles of aggregates on it, but for the most part, it's just gonna have a road. It's just gonna be, until we figure out what we're gonna build, we wanna use the property first and see what's gonna be best for us that suits the plant. And then we'll decide then what we're gonna start to build there.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. Anyone like to speak for or against?
Well,
Go ahead and come up.
I just have a question. What are you,
Go ahead and sign in for me.
so what are you, I don't want it getting any closer to my house. I live at 2110.
Can you speak to us, please?
I don't want the smell, the buildings, anything getting closer to my house. Because it's already, when you're mixing down there, the fumes are pouring over there.
The plant's not gonna move. The plant will stay where it's been since it was installed in 2017. We don't intend on moving the plant. We wanna leave the plant right there. What we're possibly going to do in the future on the piece of ground that we just acquired, that we're talking about right now, is like an office and shop.
Okay.
And then like truck parking, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it'll be more traffic, but no more,
The plant's not gonna move
Okay.
at all. It's just gonna be the way it has been.
okay.
Val, you want to point out the plant?
It's right here.
There's the plant.
Yep. Okay, that's all I know right now.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak at the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Open it up for discussion.
Steve, there's not currently an access off of Victory Road to that property?
There's not, not to that. There might be a field entrance or something in off of Victory Road there, but, there's no other approach. Looks like there might, I can see a field approach about right in the center of the property, north south there.
There is a
Here.
field entrance with clover, but that's
Well,
not very wide.
yeah, it's just off of Monroe.
Yeah, the existing approach to the plant comes off of Monroe, right there. So it sounds like what they're wanting to do is add another, add an approach and an access so that there's not two-way traffic. So they want to take some of that traffic off there and have an in and an out. In might be off Monroe and out would be up Victory. And like you mentioned, the plant sits on, and I don't know that larger chunk of property there, if that's all Kenny Porter, but the plant itself sits on a chunk of ground owned by Kenny Porter, and then Kenny Porter's, that's all Porter's pit area down there that they operate out of.
All right. Any other discussion? Let's take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning change from agricultural to I-1 on property addressed as 2200 South Victory Road.
A motion and a second. Please vote.
All commission members voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Open up the public hearing at the request of Midwest Coatings Company for a conditional use permit to operate an asphalt hot mix facility at property generally located quarter mile west of South Victory Road on East Monroe Avenue. Anyone like to speak at this public hearing? For or against? This is the same conditional use permit we have currently.
Yeah, so what I brought up was the current one from Grimes Asphalt that is essentially wanting to be replaced because they're no longer doing it with the Midwest Coatings. You'll probably want to adjust this a bit because number 3 specifically says that access is to the property is off of Monroe with a 100-foot pavement to the asphalt. So you're probably going to want to change that if they want a one-way in and one-way out now onto Victory also.
Does that still need to be 100 feet off of Victory?
Is Victory Road paved? No, it's gravel. Okay. Then you wouldn't
Then
require
no.
that if it's not paved, most
Okay.
likely. Unless you wanted to put something in there that ever said if it does get paved, then put the pavement on there.
It's paved, Victory Road,
Mm-hmm.
Ken, is that road surface all the way down to your access?
Not to where the plant is. Yeah, they've been putting some on there, so it's not wonderful stuff, but yes, it's pretty well.
I think they're talking about the actual
Victory Road.
Victory is paved all the way. I don't know what.
On that,
I believe it's asphalt all the way up Old Highway 8.
Yeah.
I guess it looks paved.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's hard surface, they would be required that one.
And that was all just paved brand new here, not very many years ago.
So they need the 100-foot
Right by there,
Off of Monroe and
hard surface?
Victory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Victory Road, that new pavement, yeah.
The reason I asked if there was an existing access to that property is I'd like to see the access as far away from the residential on the north side there to keep the dust from drifting to the north onto that residential property.
So down to the south somewhere.
We could put that as a condition in there, and then along with the 100-foot hard surface on the entrance to the South Victory Road entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a certain number of, how would you word that in the permit as far as being as south as you can?
I guess, do you have an idea of where you wanted the trucks to exit, that we could, measure it, that it could?
Yeah, we want it on south, actually. That's where it makes sense to have it, but, Black Hills has a line that runs right through there. And my understanding that the plant operator said that the people at Black Hills said, try to stay as far away from that underground pipe as we can. It runs right on that fence line south end. We wanna be at the south end, but we wanna stay away from the pipeline too.
I'd use terms like in the southern quarter of the property or something like that. Southern third, southern quarter.
Okay. Just so we have a, for Val when they prepare the conditional use permit to get the details in there.
Yep.
As far as 5 years go, is 5 years, I mean, it's fairly standard, I guess, 5 or 10, but, is 5 years good for the conditional use permit?
I mean, we intend on being here a long time. I mean, I don't know what's standard, but
So either 5 or 10 is usually the,
That's probably about average, yeah.
Okay. so, I mean, I'm fine with 10 years, I guess. Any other conditions that need to be modified or added?
Let's look here. So, 10 years,
Entrance off South Victory Road
right,
in the southern quarter with the 100-foot hard surface requirement.
yep, so we'll change number 3 to that. Operations, I mean, that's how it ended up in the placement that it did before, was that number 2. And
And that'll still fit as far as the operation goes. If they wanted to add a shop or an office there, that it's not technically operations as far as
right,
the
yeah, I mean,
asphalt mix goes.
you could certainly put something in there if you wanted to be more specific that other stockpiling, office space, parking is acceptable on the 2200 South Victory Road parcel too, if you guys wanted to do that.
I guess I'm a little confused on the conditional use permit justification form. It says traffic patterns will not change. And now we're saying that traffic patterns will change. There's gonna be a one-way in from one direction and one way out
Yeah.
from another
it won't
direction.
change immediately. It's gonna take us some time to
Okay.
get it going, to build that road to go out. Initially, we're gonna keep using it the way it is, but over the course of the next, say, through July, hopefully by July, we can have that road build going out to Victory. It won't be right away, but it'll be,
Eventually.
yeah.
Mhm.
In the first season, we intend on doing that.
Right.
So how many more trucks are going to be running?
Hard to say, actually, probably more than what has been, I would say, for sure, but one of the things the reason that we're doing that road on the south end is so that they're not going both ways right there by this place, that, it's only gonna be one way, and it keeps them from,
That makes no difference, one side of the house or the other.
But as far as the flow of traffic, it certainly improve the in-out piece. Any other conditions that need to be considered?
I just highlight, I mean, we do have it in there that compliance with the floodplain regulations, this whole thing is in the floodplain. So prior to laying down new road, grading, excavating, you're gonna need a floodplain development permit, parking of vehicles, particularly if you're gonna build a building, that'll need a floodplain permit, elevation certificate, all that sort of thing. So I just wanted to highlight that while we were here.
Anyone else that would need to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Open that up for discussion. So in that motion, we just need to discuss the entrance on the south side, the 100-foot of hard surface requirement on the southern corner of that entrance.
And then do we just include the same conditions
Mm-hmm.
as the previous
Yep.
conditional use permit?
Yes, sorry, thank you, 10 years.
Well, unless we're gonna alter the hard surface entrance to it from what code is, that'll be taken care of with a building permit, won't it?
The only way that you have that, like 35 feet to a paved road is with residential. We don't have that with commercial industrial. Otherwise, they'd have to pave all the way to parking. Yeah.
I'd take a motion.
Why is number 3 on here? Is it because that parcel didn't have access? You know, why is number 3 even here? Do you know?
I think when it first came in, it was just a field entrance before, and the concern was it was a paved road, so you wanted that 100-foot of pavement to knock the gravel off before it hit Monroe. And then also the concern came up, I believe, from the neighbor when we first did this about the trucks driving down then on gravel road. So that's why the dust control.
We don't typically identify access to property on a conditional use permit. Where this is saying access to the property shall be through the use of the existing road. Was there a reason we were tying them to the existing road? I mean, they could have accessed it through Kenny's lot. Maybe Kenny didn't want them going through the lot, but I didn't know if there was any history as to why we were specifying the point of access.
Unless it was just that's where the road was before and they wanted it as far south in that quarter. And so it was kind of a straight shot. That's the only thing I can think of. Unless you guys remember something different. It's been a few years.
Well, they were on the east side of Victory, and they didn't want all that truck traffic coming by their house, I think.
No.
And if they went up to Monroe, they could avoid that.
Either way, we're gonna have to modify number 3
Correct, yes.
anyways, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to have city staff prepare a conditional use permit for discussion and action at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting for an asphalt hot mix facility at property generally located 1/4 mile west of south of Victory Road on East Monroe Avenue, with modifications made to number 3 on the previous conditional use permit, with the drive being off of, what was that, Monroe Avenue? South quarter of Victory Road.
Second.
Or a motion and a second. Please vote.
All commission members voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
I'll open up the public hearing at the request of Flat Rock Group to consider a waiver for the Highway Corridor Overlay District at property addressed as 2409 North 13th Street.
Okay, thank you for meeting with us this morning. Really what we're looking at, we're building there is we're heading north of town, the old CTC building, and we're only looking at the north face is where we're looking at the variance. The frontage face, which is the east face, we do meet the criteria for the highway overlay, as well as the south face. But the north face is actually gonna be protected by landscaping and fencing, so it's really not even being seen. So it's really, we're asking if we can just run a wainscot, a different color of new metal panels versus having to do a stone or a brick or something of that sort that in essence won't be seen by the general public and really won't add value to the city of Norfolk or the property. When we talked about hardships, really it'd just be added cost for a material that won't be really make an impact on the city of Norfolk. Such hardship is not shared generally by other properties in the same zoning district. That's true. This is just a one deal. The authorization of such waiver will not be substantially detriment to adjacent property. We don't believe there be any hardships felt anywhere else by keeping this as a metal panel product, just on this face, just on the north face. And then granting such waivers based upon reason of struggling this morning. Demonstrate. We're just going to skip that word. An exceptional hardship is distinguished from variations for purposes of convenience, profit, or caprice. I don't really know how to answer that, but that's what we're asking for. We're improving a, by lack of a better term, rundown property. It's going to look great. I believe the renderings are in the packet that was sent out to the team. We're really proud of this project. I know Flat Rock and Dale are as well. And just, wanting to spend the money where it makes sense, in essence, for this property.
The fence would be kind of a security measure too, right?
What's that?
The fence would be a kind of a security measure too, right?
Correct. Security as well, and a requirement by the highway corridor.
Yeah, got it.
It won't be anything that's on the east face will be a montage fencing. It's not chain link, and the remainder of the fencing will be a vinyl coated chain link. So it's not a chain link. It's going to be a nice black chain link, very professional looking. Yeah, gates with keypads coming in off of the highway. Really excited about the finality of this project. So
Perfect.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not only asking for the waiver to use an alternative material, but to not use anything on the north, not do anything on the north side.
we're still going to have a wainscot, so it's going to be, as you can, well, I guess you're not looking, or maybe you have a screen in front of you, I apologize, but there's still going to be a black wainscot, so there is going to be an aesthetic feature there, but it's going to be, for the most part, hidden by the landscaping and fencing at the end of the day.
So the only side that won't have the wainscot so far up is the west side.
Correct. That's correct. And the north side will, we'll get to the 30% of high-end materials due to our storefront and glazing there, and the glass and stucco finish on the south side. The garage doors are stucco finish. That's how we're accompanying the 30% on the south face. Any other questions while I'm looking?
What's the price difference that you're looking at?
Anywhere, there's a lot of options, and we're not quite sure what direction we'll go if we don't do this. But we're looking in the probably tens of thousands to upgrade to a stone, or because we do want, there's a lot of materials on that are acceptable. We also want something to be durable, something that's going to last. We don't want something that's going to look rough after a year or two. So we'd be looking, at the tens of thousands of dollars probably. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Val, will you kind of walk us through with the whole 30% within the overlay district, like materials and?
Yeah, so this is a process that you guys don't see very often. We've pretty much done it once on the Riverfront Overlay District. And so this was set up the exact same way as that you guys are essentially a quasi-judicial hearing now in place of the Board of Adjustment. So we set it up as the 4 hardships as the state statute gives Board of Adjustment. So all 4 of these things need to have findings of fact with them as to reasons why it is a undue hardship for those 4 things. Because if somebody appeals what you do, just like they do Board of Adjustment, it goes not to City Council, but it goes to District Court. And so that's why we do findings of fact, and that's why I will be asking you, if you want to move this forward, what your findings of fact are for these 4 things, because we will write up the resolution to be read next time with those findings of fact. So that's what we're doing here today and why it is the way it is. And for the Highway Corridor Overlay District, essentially the code has 2 things. There is a landscape section for it, and there is also the building section for it. And so any visible portion of a building from the street, so you're essentially going to get 3 sides, the front and the 2 sides as you go down a street, that there should be 30% of preferred materials on those sides that are visible, meaning not all metal. The wainscoting, like you said, could be stone or brick or something that our code has in there. And so that's what they're asking for the waiver, because the landscape doesn't negate the building necessarily. That's not how it's written. That's roughly a very general thing as to why the corridor overlay is and why we're here. Any questions, or do you have any questions of the 4 hardships? You're certainly welcome to come up and talk if you would like. And if you have any more reasons on the 4 hardships to help them.
Hi, I'm Bill Robinson with the Flat Rock Group. The tenant has a branding standard, and that's what we're asking for. The overlay requirements are all being met except for the material on that side. And it's gonna be black no matter what we do. So unless you were standing 5 feet from it, you couldn't tell if it was a stucco or a stone or what have you. So the 30% is being met because we are adding the wainscoting to that side and also adhering to all the landscaping and fencing requirements for the Highway Overlay District. So it is just a request to keep it metal versus another material on that side. That is a brand standard for the tenant throughout other facilities throughout the Midwest, and just like to keep it the same, especially in the building that's being completely transformed to a very aesthetic property. So that is basically the request. So thank you.
So in order for it to move forward, these questions have to be answered and supported in the facts. And naturally, these 4 requirements are rather difficult
Yes.
to find them true.
Especially if one of their justifications for not using the required material is cost.
Correct.
Because that reflects back to item number 4, for profit.
And that's where it becomes difficult, is that is the main focus of, you know, why they don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I understand the economic piece of it also. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's certainly reviving that property. But going into the highway corridor overlay district, they knew the outcomes of what was expected.
I would have assumed so, since it's the same group that did the cat dealership on 275. Flat Rock is the same group that did that. But I don't know if they considered that. That's a question for them.
I know one thing, the code actually says frontage, and usually anywhere else I've ever seen frontage is just the frontage face, not the north, the adjacent faces that actually don't face the road. I think by definition, frontage is the east face of the building that we're complying with. And working with the city, we'd like to see, we're trying to beautify the city, definitely the highway corridor, so we're working with them to try and do what we can. But that was kind of why it wasn't in there initially, is everybody else reads the frontage as the actual frontage road, not wrapping around the building.
Now, when you read the code,
Yeah, so that's number 3 under the building design, and then number 4 goes on to say buildings shall have the same material used for all building walls and other exterior building components wholly or visible or partly visible from public ways. So that's then number 4. So that's where, when people have come in asking about the highway corridor, this isn't the first one. We've always said anything visible from the streets, and because your building is parallel with your street, you're going to see those perpendicular sides. Yeah.
I acknowledge the project does, beautify and is a very aesthetic and modern project. But then when it comes to the argument of the cost, you could make the argument that these materials are going to cost more for all projects along the highway corridor. And then, what type of precedent does it set if we were to approve this based on, saving cost? Then would we need to do that for projects moving forward if they were to make the argument that they could save cost?
And that's what makes these questions so difficult, as far as saying yes. And I'm not looking to set precedent, but I can't not set precedent at this point, just because it's very simple. When number 4 says the granting of such waiver is based upon reason of demonstrable and exceptional hardship as distinguished from variations for purposes of convenience, profit, or caprice. It's so simply stated, and I can't necessarily go with that and find that false. So
Can I say one more?
yeah, come on up.
We are aware of the highway corridor overlay, but we're just trying to be straightforward on it, because actually if we were to just do a couple more windows that are fake windows, it would work. We wouldn't even be here. And we still have the black metal. So, I mean, that's what the code says. And the only reason we're not in full compliance with the 30% is because of 4 feet of metal. That's black. So if we would add windows to the design, the metal stays and we meet the requirement. So that it's just kind of this nuance. And the hardship is that it doesn't meet the branding of Ryan equipment on a project that we are putting a substantial amount of money in, and, for a really derelict building. And we're the first property along there, all along there, is actually going to be in compliance with a highway corridor. Nobody else along there has a fence or anything. So we are setting the standard for what's yet to come. And you won't even see it regardless. So I understand you don't want to set a precedent, but I think the precedent is that you are enforcing people to come and explain their compliance to the highway corridor if there is any little bit of change. So, thanks.
Any other discussion? Anybody like to speak for or against? This is still a public hearing.
When it comes to number 4, I mean, when it has the line of convenience, profit, or caprice, could you make the argument of that they're just going with this product not for profit but to comply? It just so happens to be cheaper.
I suppose.
The metal would comply?
Comply with the building standards, right, or the branding standards of the business?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't take into account branding standards of a tenant.
I like it when you build McDonald's. They
Yeah.
have a
Yep.
little This is no different for anything, or Caterpillar, or you name it. And I understand the ownership of the business is trying to basically build a flagship location in Northeast Nebraska, and that's their standard. And that's why they're putting this kind of into it. I mean,
You reference McDonald's. Say if you go to Vero Beach and look at the McDonald's there, it's not the same as the one on South 13th Street in Norfolk.
maybe that was the best.
Yeah.
I just feel I want to get this property in here, and I don't want this to be a determining factor. There has to be a way to get through it.
I think that would be the standard then. They would be expected to use the proper material. That's essentially how it comes,
I know.
right?
Essentially, we'd have to come back with, it's a fake brick, a stucco, or some additional metals. Metal is still there. And then there is no coming here for.
Mm-hmm.
Val, when you opened up this topic, what was, I thought I heard there was a conversation. Is there a conversation on the north side? I know that wainscot currently wraps around the north side. Was there a conversation in the agenda item about the north side, or is it the north side, the south side, and the east side? Is it all three?
I agree that the east side is fine because they have all the windows, so you're going to hit the east side with your windows. So you've hit your 30% of preferred, because preferred materials by code are brick, clay, stucco, wood, glass, precast concrete, split face concrete, masonry units with integrated color, stone, something like that. We compromised already as staff on the south side because they don't have preferred materials on the south side, but they have their garage doors there. So we've already compromised on the south side. And so I believe they're asking for the north side to not put preferred materials on the north side.
Okay. So does that, I don't know if that adds any clarity. It did for me, but so the conversation on that image is just about the wainscoting on the north side. So the east side, they meet the 30% with the glazing. The south side, they've done some stuff to the garage doors so it's really just that wainscoting on the north side of the building that we're talking about.
The garage doors on the south, because it's almost all garage doors there.
Yeah.
It's a door, it's a wood grain, raised look. You see on some residential homes. And they're all black as well. And they have windows in them. So, it was really the Northern Pre-Planning Commission, group, they liked that because they said with all the additional landscaping and black fencing and so forth, that it did, basically you couldn't see the other side anyway, at that height. And the rest of, all that is all brand new metal, but none of it is old metal. It's not gonna be green, it's all brand new, black roof, white metals, the whole facility.
So it's just on the north side, then, Steve, right?
why I referenced if we had a couple windows,
Yeah.
then not safe.
There's no point for this. Yeah.
And they can be windows that look like windows that aren't windows. But, you know, Bella's doing her job. She's saying we gotta just make sure that we're all in compliance, and you want that highway corridor to be enforced for future facilities, so it looks nice. No disagreement with that. Because we've added a couple $100,000 in landscaping, it's gonna have irrigation, there's a wind park in the corner, with the American flag, and it's gonna be nice.
Anyone from the public want to speak? Otherwise, I'll close the public hearing.
No, I'm Doug working with Davis today.
Go ahead and come up and sign in for me.
Yeah. My architect, Erin, she's spearheaded this project, and so she's been deeply involved in all the materials chosen, and the project is going from a tired, worn-out building to this. I think you'll be able to put this finished product up against about any development on that corridor when it's all said and done. I actually live out of north of by Hayter. I drive by it every day, and I'll be proud of what this will look like. They're spending some significant money, you know, for landscaping, the building, materials, new roof, new walls. It's an extreme makeover. So, and so looking at the branding and all the materials used, I'm confident that even though I wasn't part of the early meetings, I'm pretty confident that, you know, it'll be something that we'll be proud of.
Another item is on that north side, there's pavement, and that's all for employee parking. So during the day, when all the cars are there, they're covering up that as well. Now, does it mean when at night, or when business is closed, that the cars won't be, but that's where all the employee parking is.
So the north property line between Ferrogas and Flat Rock, they're running trees and shrubs pretty much the length of that north
Yeah,
side.
all the way up.
So when I'm coming down Old Hayter Road, which we call it Old Hayter Road, but they redid it, so maybe we need to call it New Hayter Road now. But, you know, being able to see nice landscaping and trees and everything, I look forward to it, you know, because that's something I see every day as I come in and out of town.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and open for discussion. This is the difficult nature of the business.
Why we make the big bucks?
Yeah. I understand the financial piece, the aspects of the, you know, just supporting the economic growth of Norfolk, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a beautiful building. I actually enjoy the brand, despite it just being black and white. I mean, it's clearly gonna give the facelift that the northern, you know, entrance to the city certainly deserves and needs. I just, it comes down to the questions we have to answer in order to approve it. That's the problem I come with it. If it's just the windows, then add the windows. I want you guys to do it, but I want you to be absolutely in compliance so this doesn't go any further. But I can't answer yes to number 4. That's where it comes down to, and then that's my own viewpoint.
And from our point of things, we have to protect ourselves, the city. And
we have the specific
yeah.
rules in place for that reason.
Yeah.
And we need everyone to come up to that threshold and not. I'm not saying they're cutting corners, but I don't want that to be the precedent we set moving forward specifically.
Yeah.
That would be my opinion.
Because even when we consider the argument of the branding standards, it still does that, produce such a hardship, to use different materials. I guess it comes down to that as well. Is that an undue hardship?
And I would just like to reiterate that here's what we're setting out. Meet it or don't. I think that's kind of the black and white scenario of it. Is it met or is it not?
One thing that you go around this is, we learned is, this highway corridor, it's like we are the best of that in 2 locations. And I would ask that much more clarity and much more specifics be added to the process. Because, yes, we knew going in, but there was a lot of building the ship as we went along. And that this would be enforced with everybody, not just us. Because you go down that corridor and it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, there isn't fencing between the roads.
But as anyone else would apply for a building permit, the same rules would apply
I
to
would
them.
hope so.
Yeah.
But as we learn, that would verify, it's like, well, what does that really mean? I mean, it needs to be cleaned up. Especially on multi-million-dollar projects. That's where our ownership is like, thinking of future things too.
And I do truly appreciate the investment in our community. But, like I say, you just hate to set a precedent by granting a waiver that really doesn't meet the finding of facts criteria, because you just open the door.
Right. Not just you're granting a waiver for something nobody sees. And then future developers will see it.
I'd say the best course of action is to err on the side of caution, and let them, since we can't for sure support number 4, let them figure out what they want to do on that north side, and we probably wouldn't see this again because then it'd be in compliance. So I'd say that's the best course of action.
And I also can't help but not believe that tens of thousands of dollars extra cost would stop $1 million+ project. I mean, you had to have built some cushion into that budget.
It's already 40% of the budget
Yeah, that's understandable with
because of the
today's
water
cost.
district paving requirements. No, you're not wrong, Marie. It's not gonna stop the project, but it does give a clear sign on who we want to invest in this community with all this stuff
Yeah.
on that corridor. I'm not saying it won't happen, but and I'm not the ownership, but these are the things they look at. And I can tell you that they are highly disappointed all about this.
So one of the thoughts that I have, architecturally speaking, is if we have a nice frontage, what we interpret as frontage, but then we're going around 3 sides with the same metal, the same finishes. If we do something different, wainscoting or something different, that could look interesting or out of place if one side looks different. If that side has stone or brick or something that the other sides do not, there could be an argument that it looks better, it looks cohesive, all the sides match.
We had a in-depth discussion with the ownership, and they don't like the fake brick. It doesn't look good. I mean, they're all out of look.
Mm-hmm.
They really like that. And they understand. They understand that it's not even seen. And that's the only request. If it was wide open, no landscaping, sure, it would have to be something else. And yeah, it's not gonna stop the project, but another 100,000 over what your items.
You're right. I understand as well the frustration. But again, what we have to look at is, does it meet, not even just one of these provisions, but all four?
Not necessarily in the business of setting precedent, but at the same point, that's kind of where I lie. So if there's no other discussion, I would take a motion.
I'll make a motion to have, where are we at? City staff prepare a resolution for discussion and action at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting to allow a waiver of the highway overlay district requirements and property addressed as 2409 North 13th Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Commission members voting in favor are Waite, Sock, Franklin, Cubie, Griffith, Ronfelt. Correction, the opposed. Voting in favor. All commission members voting in the negative. Motion fails.
And Val?
Okay.
The 2024 building permit report?
Yes, the January building permit report. So we had 2 new single-family detached, so we're doing great on those this year. We have 31 as of January. We had 12 at this time last year. We got 1 new duplex, and so we're 1 this year and 20 last year. No new multifamily, so no multifamily yet this year, and we had 2 for 44 units last year. No new single-family attached, so we have 4 as of this year and none this time last year. And we're about $255 million less than last year for building valuation because of the industrial.
Thank you, Val. Any other open topics or concerns?
Just a couple things, if I could, for announcements. Just a last reminder of NPZA, if you could let us know by the end of the week whether you would like to go, which days and hotels, because we will sign everybody up next week, because it's in 2 weeks from today it starts. And then also, if you all could come maybe 5 or 10 minutes early, the first meeting in March, because next week IT is getting a whole new voting system. So we're going to be installing that next week. We as staff will learn how to use it, and then we'll train you guys a few minutes beforehand, because I think it's going from that board to like a TV screen type thing, and then you'll have like pads is kind of what I hear. So when we know how to do it, you'll know how to do it. But if you could just pop in a little early at the next meeting. That would be
5th?
That would be the 5th, yes.
Is there a reason why the sign is still up there on this topic?
The what?
Is there a reason that's still up there on this topic?
No, I just haven't shut my computer down. Sorry.
Anything else?
Nope, that was it. Thanks for listening.
Motion for adjournment?
So what?
It's ugly. It's ugly when we don't get paid for it. We're asked to make decisions that frustrate.
Frustrating, but
It just, we gotta do what we do, and that's the nature of it. I'm glad it doesn't. I know. It's just.
one, it comes down to the argument of the provisions. These are the provisions we are given. We can't necessarily change them.
Sorry.